Craziest tattoo story. I don't know if I should even say it.
I almost had a guy die on Monday, but apart from that, I think probably tattooing my mate's face on his mate's ass. I had to like lean on his crack and like stretch his ass open, and it was like, it was pretty weird.
I mean, I tattooed some girl who was like doing meth.
While you're tattooing her?
I mean, if she wasn't, then she... No, she definitely was, dude.
While you're in the middle of the fucking tattoo?
No, she would like disappear and come back.
Okay, I'm picturing
and then like
her
some
just,
other
like...
girl came over like later and like hit her off real quick, and then she was getting sleepy.
Because, damn.
So then she like, you know, after the meth moved to like some sedative.
Of course, you got to balance out your highs and lows. That makes
so
a lot of sense.
It was a weird time.
Yeah, that sounds like a rough shot too.
Yeah, after she left, I was like,
I think like when I was apprenticing, we once had a guy come in on PCP, and he had been getting tattooed in a garage, and he was like the basic, like, you know, tribal on the side of the leg. And he wasn't even covered up. It was just like a super shaky outline, and somebody had started like coloring it in like it was a crayon, and he was so high, would barge into the shop and started demanding us to finish the tattoo.
I had another guy go take a hit of crack in the bathroom too one time.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, definitely. And then he got all weird after that and then left.
He's all cracked out.
Yeah. For real.
Fuck, I mean, shit, I tatted a dude in a car one time when I was a kid.
There you go.
We connected the machine, the homemade machine, to the stereo batteries, to the power from the stereo.
So this guy comes in, and like, mind you, we're a street shop, we're open like 10 or 12 hours a day. You see a lot of weird things where we work. And this guy came in to get a tattoo on his arm, and he wanted to show us the placement. So he asks to go use the restroom, and he comes back out, and his shirt is off, and his pants are all the way down to show us the place on his arm. He literally just wanted to come in and show some people his dick, and then like didn't even book a tattoo and left.
I had just gotten to this studio, and this lady came in, and she was like crying. She was like, "Oh my God, I have such a bad scar. I need you to cover it." All this other stuff. And we're like, "Oh, what is it?" And she just drops her pants. And we're like, "What are we looking at?" She had no tattoos, you know? No. So we're like, "What are we looking at?" And she just bends over, and it looked like somebody sodomized her with a hot curling iron. And she wanted to match her pigment to, you know, to cover that. So I'm lowball, you know, low dick on the stick kind of shit or whatever it's called. And I had to do the tattoo. So we had pulled the curtains all the way around. Everybody was in the shop, and she was just screaming. And then next thing you know, I open the curtains, nobody's in there. I'm just there by myself. So scared.
He was my friend. He's a tattoo artist. He told me that he did a dragon once on a client, and then like 2 months later, he actually met the client again, and he asked him, "Hey, how's the tattoo healing?" And he said like, "Well, I don't have that tattoo anymore." And he said like, "What do you mean? Like, you don't have that tattoo anymore?" "Okay, I got into a car accident and half of my leg got amputated, so I don't have it anymore."
Bottom line is I tattooed a guy at a convention, tattooed his head. I don't know if I gave him a concussion or something, but I woke up the next morning to all these crazy death threats to my coworker and myself, talking about how he thought we were having some kind of secret pizza party after the convention that we didn't invite him to. And he was all like super worked up about it. He freaked out. There's a bunch of other stuff to the story, but he went home to his studio, because he's a tattoo artist, and filmed himself burning all of his tattoo equipment and his paintings and everything, and then sent the video to me of him like freaking out, burning all his shit, and started talking about pizza again. He was like really worked up that we didn't invite him to a pizza party, which, by the way, there was no pizza. Nobody ate any pizza. The dude was like totally psycho.
I just have to say, whenever I tattoo Marilyn Manson, it's the fucking craziest times of my tattoo.
That sounds fun as fuck.
Yeah, every time. I ain't telling nobody at the bar about it, because I don't go to a bar, but every time I tattoo that fool, he's an awesome handful.
I think the most disturbing idea is just received an email one guy that he sent me the photo of his daughter, like 2-3 years old daughter, and he wanted to change the body for a female woman, like a sexy playboy woman, and say what's wrong with this guy? You know, I say that.
Oh my God.
That's a horrible story. And,
that's terrible. Cut.
During my first guest spot ever, I was tattooing in this little town in Florida in like the sticks. And I decided to go there because I like went to high school there, and I was like, oh yeah, people from high school get tattooed by me. So I'm there and I'm doing this guest spot, and like they had a walk-in come in and they did like piercings and stuff. And this mom comes in with her 12-year-old daughter to get her nipples pierced. And the piercer had to explain that it was illegal to touch a 12-year-old's boobs.
Long ago, I just moved to England, so it was one of my first customer. So that girl came in and she wanted a tattoo on a thigh. So, well, I started to do, and at the first line already, she like moved, but not normal, like moving a lot. So I said, please just not move. And then try again, and then again. So then she started to say, stop, don't move. Like slap her leg, but not for fun. Just like, really, she was crazy. So I was just like, try to speak, and I couldn't say anything because I told you my English wasn't good. So I called the guy, said, what happened over here? What do I have to do? I couldn't, she was moving like, and nothing. Basically, she was continuing to slap her thigh like very hard and say, I told you not to move. Something like that. So that was funny, actually. Very funny.
Oh my God. So when I was first starting out professionally tattooing, and mind you, I'm not good at this point, I got an inquiry for an appointment to set where this dude actually wanted a picture of him and his wife having sex tattooed on him and her. They both wanted it. There were two separate photos, and they sent the photos through the email. So imagine my face when I go in to look at this appointment inquiry, and then I open the attached files, maybe about to see like an infinity symbol or a rose, and I go ahead and I basically see some homemade pornography, which is, hey, I'm all for it, but dude, that was a little much, man. I don't know. So he basically went on to explain how like they're very sexual in their relationship. They've experimented with like swinging and all that other stuff, and they've finally settled down to realize they only want to mess with each other. And so to symbolize that, they wanted to get these pictures of them having sex tattooed on them. Hey dude, if you didn't get that tattoo yet, hit me up now. I'm damn near down. We'll make a vlog about it, probably go viral.
So I get a client, I tattoo her, and I'm tattooing her, claims she falls madly in love with me, and I'm like, I'm not really the falling in love type. I'm polyamorous. I have other partners. She doesn't like that. I'm like, that's too bad, so sad. And it turned into a horrible thing, like, because I wouldn't give her a relationship or give her what she wanted. She just went psycho and called the Better Business Bureau, bad reviews online, like anything she could think of. And I laughed at it, like the Better Business Bureau sent me a letter and called me, and I was like, good luck with that.
I feel like my craziest tattoo moment was tattooing one day, and then my favorite band in the world walked into the room and walked out to the back door while I'm tattooing, and I'm like, hello? And they come back in, they're like, hey, I heard the party's here. I'm like, what? Because our shop was across the street from a big music venue. And I was like, yes. They're like, you got any booze? And I'm under 21. I'm like, I'll find you booze. Sure, what do you need? Like, yeah, can we get this? We're kind of hungry. I'm like, get this man some beer and pizza now. And they ended up just like partying at our shop, and I tattooed them, and just, it was a crazy, crazy moment. Now, like, my favorite musicians have a tattoo from me.
I was like 16, and I met this band that later became pretty famous. They were traveling on a train with a circus through Colombia, playing for free in like small towns in the middle of nowhere. And I remember seeing these guys, and I was like, you know, I was middle class Colombian. I was expected to be, you know, become 18, go to university, cut my hair, wear a tie, get a pretty wife, cheat on her, and buy a car that I couldn't afford, and, you know, that cycle. And I saw these guys with like crazy hair, tattoos and all that. And I already had crazy hair and all that, but, you know, everybody was expecting me to change. And then I just saw those guys, and I'm like, I want to be like them. And then they were tattooing for like $5. And I tried to get tattooed, and the guy gave me such a hard time. But in the end, he ended up tattooing me on a train. The day I arrived to my appointment, it's so cinematographic, you know? It's like almost sunset, all this light, and I walk in there, and he's washing the gloves in a bucket to tattoo me. And I knew that was not cool, but you know what? Ain't no pussy. And he just tattooed me on a train in the middle of nowhere. a dragon here that it was like the logo of that thing, and then he did the other one 2 days later at a party where they were playing, and we were all coked up and fucked up, and I'm 16, and I mean, in Colombia that was normal. And I got them, and you know, they don't look very good, of course, but it's one of those things that I'm like, it has so much story that I love it.
I have this client of mine, I'm sorry if you see this, but I have this client of mine, I love him to death, he's the nicest guy, but I was talking to him one day at the front counter, and I say, hey, buddy, tell me something you've never told anybody before. Let's just seeing where he'd go with it, you know, maybe telling me he like wore lipstick on Fridays or Saturdays or something, you know, to that extent. And he said, okay, but you know, so-and-so's over here, I don't want him to hear it. And I was like, he's not gonna tell anybody, I swear. And he's like, okay, I killed once. I said, oh shit. You know, and my buddy said, how? He goes,
so there was this other shop in town that it was in North Broadway in Chicago, and at the time it was very red light up there, and you know, I knew a guy that worked there who was strung out, and he could go outside and raise his finger, and somebody would show up with a loaded syringe for him within a minute, you know, and he'd have like 3 or 4 guys competing for his business. That's the kind of neighborhood it was. So anyway, it was owned by this guy, Tattoo Pete. And Tattoo Pete was he was a real character. And I liked Pete, you know. He was a grubby, old school tattoo guy, greasy, you know, and raw, you know. So anyway, my friend Danny was working at Pete's shop, and he's got a client who's doing a tattoo of Jesus on this client's chest. And Pete is in the back room, and he's banging this hooker that he'd just done a tattoo on, and Dan's trying to do this Jesus tattoo, and he's hearing this hooker putting on her best fake orgasm. He's just, and just comical, right? And then Pete comes out, and he's still got his shirt off, his big, hairy, greasy, fat belly hanging out. He's buckling up his pants. Hey, Danny, you want a piece? And Danny's like, I'm tattooing Jesus right now.
This was maybe like 2 years ago or so. I was tattooing this older woman. She was about 80 years old, and it was her first tattoo, and she was super cute. She had like a pink velour jumpsuit on, and she was really excited to get her 2 dogs' names and like little paw prints and color on her shoulder. We went to do the tattoo, and I had her sitting in a seated massage chair, and I did one little line, and she passed out, but with her eyes open, and her body went white, and I thought I killed her, because she was so old and her eyes were open. And so her body just starts sweating profusely because, you know, you pass out, you sweat. And I'm blotting off all the sweat, trying to keep the stencil so I could finish the tattoo when she comes to. And I'm trying to hold her on top of this massage chair. And I start screaming for the receptionist to come because I'm shaking this old lady and she's not waking up. And the receptionist runs in, and we're laying on the floor, like looking through the little face pad, trying to get her to wake up, and just like shaking her and screaming her name. And then her body jolts, and she takes a minute, and then she's like, hey, I heard you, but I didn't want to say anything because I was thinking of other stuff. And I was like, playing it cool, I like your style, it's okay. And then we finished the tattoo, and that was it. She was amazing. But then 2 weeks later, she came back for another tattoo because she's a rock star. And it was adorable. She got like a little tattoo on her hip, and I was going to place it. And she goes, I was like, oh, do you want it more on the left or the right or down? And she's like, oh, put it wherever you want. Just don't put it over my gunshot wound. And I was like, Grandma, say what? And she goes, oh, it's nothing. I just used to be in the FBI. And she was so cool. Yeah. And I finished the tattoo. She didn't pass out or die or anything like that. And yeah, and she's like, I'm done. I'm good with my tattoos now.